So for my first sprint, I focused mainly on testing some hypotheses I initially came up with and solidifying my need finding by outlining a clearer problem statement, defining my stakeholders and users as novice and intermediate web developers, and outlining some high level outcomes for both users. And that is really just to, based on my need finding, to extract common practices and context based insights that help learners understand one, why structuring code in certain ways may be preferable than others, and two, how professional websites are built using sort of common industry practices, and sort of learning from comparing and contrasting all these examples. And so the first part of my sprint was focused mainly on, again, sort of defining the problem and the needs and pains of the users so that it would inform my design needs and would guide me through some basic sketching and prototyping of what this interface would look like. And so after sketching a couple of designs, I worked on some higher fidelity mockups. And so worked on worked and tested three of these sort of iterations. The first one really connecting sort of the HTML structure to different types of websites, because comparing, for example, a business site or a social media site might be very different than comparing a news site based on their needs. But again, sort of correlation between websites at a higher level. The second sort of mock-up I was thinking about was more of a side-by-side comparison, focused first on the code and then eventually displaying what that similar outcome is, and then also comparing um, things like browser compatibility, media queries or responsive strategies, whether or not we can deduce anything about dependencies or workflow tools, for example, like whether or not CSS was compiled from Sass, and whether or not they use sort of modern CSS techniques or CSS hacks like Flexbox or something else to accomplish the same goal. And then finally, a more familiar sort of get difference layout that sort of combines the different implementations across different websites into one, and at the same time, sort of comparing different features of the same component. For example, NPR's website includes a dropdown in its fixed navigation bar, whereas the New Yorker does not. And so, again, sort of adjusting for granularity and specificity in the implementation. And so I tested these mockups very briefly with 3 users, and next sprint we'll be aiming to sort of refine and test these with more users and focus on a specific interface design.